You know what I'm not going to have to hear tonight? Mark, you're late. Not late. I'm 2 minutes early. Welcome to MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football on a Tuesday night of Maction. I am sure that just about everybody who will either come in live tonight or who's going to join us on the replay, the rewatch squad, is definitely been drawn by the title of the video, Buffalo Bowling Green, and for the Wagon Wheel Trophy, Kent-Akron, which reminds me, I have got to send this video link. I forgot, not used to having guests for our call-in shows, but I've got to send this link to our friend Steve Hellwick with SB Nation. He's going to join us in just a few minutes to talk Maction, because this, of course, college football is owned by Maction on Tuesday and Wednesday night. If you are simply a weekend college football fan, you are missing out. And I got to say, I've been missing out. I haven't watched a MAC game in forever, but I did watch a little bit tonight, Akron and Kent. If anybody knows my roots, I should have put this on display. 55 points on the board right now for the Golden Flashes. 55 on the board for the Golden Flashes against the hated Zips for the Wagon Wheel Trophy. Let's display Kent prominently. They're undefeated now, going for 3-0, and they should be in a safe place with a 20-point lead with about just 11 minutes left in the game against the undermanned Zips, who came into the game at 0-2, and Kent was a huge 4-touchdown favorite in this one. So welcome in, everyone. Let me get this link out to our buddy Steve Hellwick. Got to get that done. I apologize. This is unprofessional. I should have done this earlier, but again, I forgot. There we go, folks. There we go. It is good to see everyone in the live chat. I expect the biggest crowd we will ever have. I expect the biggest live audience online at one time in the history of MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football, which is probably about 400. I expect us to exceed 400 easily tonight with Kent State and Akron, and I know many of you want to see the conclusion of the game. I get that. But if you could tear yourself away, it's just going to be another touchdown by Kent. Oh, they're going to make it 62 unless they go for 2 again. They went for 2 on the last touchdown, up a mere 55-28 at the time. They went for 2, Woody Hayes style. I don't know if that's going to be a point of contention at midfield after the game between the two coaches. As we saw last week, between the East Carolina coach, I cannot remember his name, the East Carolina Pirates coach, who replaced, oh my goodness. I used to go to the American Conference Media Days every year for about 5 consecutive years, and I can't remember their previous coach. Really nice guy. But anyway, if anyone knows what I'm talking about, Luke Fickell at Cincinnati went for a fake punt with 4 minutes left, up by 1 million. And it led to another Cincinnati touchdown, and they trounced East Carolina, and there was quite the exchange at the halftime between Luke Fickell and the East Carolina head coach. So we've got Kent State going for 2, up 55-28, and now they scored another touchdown. The Golden Flashes, mighty proud, mighty strong, mighty flashy at 3-0. 3-0 maybe for the first time in school history. Maybe we could look that up. Maybe we could look that one up. The Flashes score again. We got Steve Hellwick on the line from, again, SB Nation's Hustle Belly, also Underdog Dynasty, to break down the MAC for us tonight. So we had quite, Steve, the rushing effort in Buffalo as they down Bowling Green 42-17, and now Kent State's pouring it on Akron after a pretty entertaining first half where the Zips held in there.
What a night from Jarrett Patterson specifically. He's the best player in the MAC. Last year, he puts up 298 yards and 6 touchdowns on Bowling Green. And there's no way he's going to break that rushing total tonight. And he goes in there, 301 rushing yards on 31 carries and 4 touchdowns. I was just in the press conference. He had 31 carries, and he said he doesn't even get tired. There's no stamina. He said the good running backs just get better as the game goes on, and that's what Patterson does. He's a workhorse. I mean, he had so many games with 26-plus carries last year, and he got over 140-plus in each of his final 6 games to end the year. And he might even do 1,000 yards in a 6-game schedule. That's how ridiculous the numbers he put up this year are. What a night for Jarrett Patterson and MAC running backs in general.
And then, Steve, here in this game with Kent State leading now, I believe 62-35 is the score. I believe they just scored a touchdown, 62-35. Tight game at half. It was 28 all, late second quarter, 35-28 Kent. Kent moving on to 3-0. I don't know if we can confirm. That might be the first 3-0 start in Kent State history. I don't know that.
I can tell you 1958 was
1958
was the last time they started 3-0.
Okay.
They started 2-0 since 1980.
For that one. I think it's pretty astonishing before we get to what happened tonight and what's going to happen the remainder of the season in the MAC, and specifically for Kent State, that Kent State has quite the legacy from a football Hall of Fame standpoint. Lou Holtz, Nick Saban, Josh Cribbs, Antonio Gates, Julian Edelman, James Harrison. Who else?
Jack Lambert.
Did I miss Jack Lambert?
Yes.
I missed Jack Lambert right out of the gate. That's who and actually when you said 1958, before you said 58, I was going to say 72 because that's about where Jack Lambert's final season was there before he moved on to the Pittsburgh Steelers. But well done there, Steve. Good stuff. Yeah, with Kent State. So your thoughts about the Flashes tonight and what they bring to the table, of course, winning their first ever bowl game last year, and what a job they have done.
Well, Dustin Crum is the best quarterback in the MAC. We saw him in the Frisco Bowl last year that you were mentioning. He beat Utah State 51-41. He outplayed first-round draft pick Jordan Love in that game. Dustin Crum is a great runner. He's a great thrower. We saw him complete 17 of 17 in the first half tonight with 2 touchdown passes and 300 yards. Hasn't thrown much in the second half. Right now he's 22 of 25. But also Dustin Crum has it with his legs too. 13 rushes, 104 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns tonight. He is the epitome of a dual threat quarterback, and he's really helped bring this Kent State program back to a level it never really was before. The Golden Flashes offense just dropped 62 points. It's a second straight week they've scored 62. I know the teams are Akron and Bowling Green, but it's just a testament to what Sean Lewis has done with his flash fast offense. They run at the fastest pace in the MAC. It's what you see from Jeff Lebby at Ole Miss or what Josh Heupel runs at UCF, just getting to the line of scrimmage right away, calling a snap immediately. And when you have guys with the speed Kent State has, Xavier Williams, a guy who just scored that long rushing touchdown to make it 62. When you have guys like that, Dustin Crum, quarterback who's great at zone reads, then Kent State can just keep wearing teams out with their offense, and they're phenomenal at it. I mean, they lost some receivers, they lost some running backs going in from last season to this season, but the Flashes still look really good under the system, and I think they have a good pair of running backs on Marquez Cooper and Xavier Williams also to complement Crum in the running game.
So, Steve, handicap the race for us. So in the MAC Eastern Division, we've got Buffalo and Kent, both 3-0, of course, after winning tonight in convincing fashion. Got a couple of one-loss teams in Miami and Ohio. So looking at that division, what do you expect down the stretch?
Well, Buffalo is a clear favorite. Buffalo last week proved that they have a passing game this year, which was kind of absent last year. Kyle Van Treese exploded, didn't even throw interception in the second half. He exploded for a career-high 353 passing yards. He was taking shots downfield, really accurate. Buffalo also has probably the strongest receiver in the MAC in Antonio Nunn. The way he gets those one-on-one 50-50 balls in man coverage, Antonio Nunn is excellent. Zach LaFave, one of their tight ends. They have weapons in the receiving core. But then again, this is a running back tandem that almost any program in the country would want to have Jarrett Patterson and Kevin Marks. Even the top programs in the SEC, Big Ten, that's how good this duo is. I mean, we saw them put these numbers up on Penn State last year. So Jarrett Patterson and Kevin Marks are a phenomenal running back tandem, and they both had over 1,000 yards last year. And I said Jarrett Patterson might do it in a 6-game schedule this year after posting 300 tonight. So Buffalo's running back duo is unstoppable. Their offensive line has not allowed a sack in, I believe it's 7 games now, dating back to last year. They haven't allowed a single sack. I think they've only allowed 1 sack since October of 2019. So, and this is a new line. They're starting 3 new guys this year, but it's a formidable unit. Defensively, they have good pass rush. One of their guys, Taylor Riggins, hasn't even played a game yet this year, but Malcolm Kuntz, who led the MAC in sacks last year, he had a couple tonight and really stalled Bowling Green on that opening drive. And the secondary had a lot of breakups against Miami last week. They forced Miami just to complete 7 to 25 passes. This is a real complete team, a team that I think should be receiving more AP votes. They have 1 right now, but this is the best MAC team since 2016 Western Michigan, and you can write that down. You can take that to the bank. They're a complete team, and I think that they will go unscathed in the MAC. Now, their biggest challenge is Kent State, who is their last loss, their most recent loss. They blew a 21-point lead in the final 9 minutes to them last year and lost on a Thursday night, 30-27 to the Golden Flashes. And they will play that game next week. So you're going to have Dustin Crum, the best quarterback in the MAC, Kent State, against Buffalo, who has just an absurd running back tandem and is overall a balanced team. And those are the 2 teams you want to watch in the MAC East and in the MAC in general, because I think those are the 2 Titans we have this year.
So that would be the Saturday after Thanksgiving, November 28th, Buffalo, Kent, both 3-0 matching up. Then in the Western Division, we got Central Michigan sitting at 2-0 along with Western Michigan.
Tomorrow night.
1-loss teams in Ball State and Toledo.
Western versus Central, the battle for the cannon is tomorrow night. That is probably the best rivalry in the MAC West, and both teams are going 2-0 into it. You have Jim McElwain versus Tim Lester. Last year, Lester's Broncos got the better of McElwain and the Chippewas, but Central Michigan's off to a pretty good start this year. They were close but didn't lose week 1 against Ohio. They managed to come out of that game unscathed, and then they just put a beating on Northern Illinois last week. And meanwhile, Western Michigan did the opposite. Week 1, they destroyed Akron, which it looks like a much improved Akron the way they played offense in the first half tonight with Tion Dollard running all over the place. Well, Western beat them 58-13, and then the following week, Western Michigan had that ridiculous game against Toledo. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but with the onside kick, the fake spike, everything that had to go down in the last minute for Western Michigan to win that game, just a classic game. And the Broncos are 2-0 going into that matchup. The winner of Central Western probably wins the MAC West, but I wouldn't roll Toledo out yet. Toledo should have beat Western Michigan, and the Rockets are threatening on offense with Bryant Koback as a star running back, and then Eli Peters has gotten better and more accurate at the quarterback position this year.
Action owns college football on Tuesday and Wednesday night. The slate at 7 o'clock Eastern time. 3 games all played at the same time in MAC play on Wednesday night, with Northern Illinois taking on Ball State on the road. Toledo at Eastern Michigan. Central Michigan hosting Western Michigan. Again, the game of the night on ESPN2. Steve Hellwick sets us up with the MAC. We talk Texas football with him. Be looking out for that segment coming up. You can catch him on UnderdogDynasty.com, Underdog Dynasty on SB Nation, and also Hustle Belt for your MAC football needs. Steve, we appreciate you stopping by. And,
thanks for bringing me on. Appreciate it.
That?
Thanks for bringing me on. Appreciate talking action anytime.
Absolutely. It's good stuff. Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it.
Have a good one.
Our guy, Steve Hellwick with SB Nation. All right, I'm going to dive into the live chat. We've got an enormous 17 on the line, and that's one of the reasons why I asked the question that I did. It's on the community page if you're unaware. Go to the community page sometime tonight while you're thinking about it and vote. We want to know the best time to go live every night so I can consistently show up every night and draw big numbers, get sponsors, and be here for you when you want me to be here. All right, let's dive in the live chat. And I did get a phone call, and now the phone lines are open. They're open now. So go to it, and I will get the number posted before we do anything else. There you go. 860-325-3687. Big win for Kent State tonight. It should be at this point 62-35. 5 or 6 minutes left in the game at beautiful Dick's Stadium. Beautiful Dick's Stadium. The site of many of my internship assignments for Channel 23 WAKC in Akron, Ohio. Back in, we'll leave the date out. We'll leave the year out of those internships. But yes, beautiful Dick's Stadium. I shot many a stand-up in front of Dick's Stadium. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, aren't you alumni of Kent State?
I am.
All right.
I went to one game while I went to school there.
Yeah, Dick's Stadium. That's a really nice field.
It is now. I'm sure it looks much different than the last time I was there.
Okay. But, by the way, this is David. I just want you to know that. Sorry. I know you like to go on the line.
Yes,
But,
David. Yep.
Okay. What was the record when you were there, Mark?
Oh, my word. Their record? I think they won 3 games in 4 years. No.
Okay.
They won maybe 3 or 4 games my final 3 years. So the first year I was there was Glenn Mason's last year at Kent State, and they went 7-4, which parlayed into a Kansas job for him prior to going to Minnesota. Right. So Glenn Mason, they had a pretty good football team at 7-4. And the one game that I went to, which was during orientation week before Ohio State started playing, because I couldn't go to the Kent State games because Ohio State was on, and that's what I wanted to watch. So I never went to a Kent State game after my orientation week. And yes, then they were awful after that. It was a lot of 0-11 and 1-10.
See, I was there in the 90s, and I had just missed O.J. Santiago, by the way. Another Kent State
yes.
Played the NFL.
Yeah,
yep.
with the Falcons. Yep.
On the Dirty Bird team that went to the Super Bowl.
That's right.
Yeah, Kent State, you're right, they produced some really good players, some really good coaches. I mean, they did have that good team, what was it, 6-7 years ago, with Daryl Hazel was the coach.
Yes.
Came over from Ohio State. I believe they won the MAC that year and went to a bowl game.
Well, I believe, I would not bet my mortgage on this, but I believe they lost the MAC championship game because I believe if they won that, I believe they would have gone to the Orange Bowl. I believe that was the year that Northern Illinois beat them and went to the Orange Bowl to play Florida State in 2012. I'll have to verify that.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Because Florida State, that was the E.J. Manuel Florida State team that did that, I think.
Yeah, let me double check that. Yeah, 2012. They were 11-1, and they lost to Northern Illinois by a touchdown, 44-37 in the MAC championship game.
What bowl game did they end up in that year, Mark?
Well, they plummeted from the Orange to the GoDaddy.com Bowl and lost to Arkansas State 17-13.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, Hazel did a pretty good job. They had a back there, Archer, that got drafted into the NFL.
Yes.
The Steelers drafted him.
Dre Archer.
Pretty good little, Dre Archer was a pretty good little player there.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, Kevin's had some good teams in the past. I mean, all the way back to the 70s era, the Don James era, when he had Lambert. I think Lambert and Saban played together on the same team at Kent, by the way.
That makes sense. That would make sense. Lambert's last year would have been 73.
Right.
I believe he was a rookie in the NFL in 74.
And I think that's right around the time Saban was there. And then James left to go take the Washington job probably a few years after that, I would think.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I'm being a little bit harsh on my Kent State Golden Flashes while I was there. They did go 0-11 and 2-9 my last 2 years.
Oh, yeah, it was pretty rough in the 90s. We saw some pretty lean years there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I tell you what, it's been rough at Akron U. I mean, they had that one good team I think it was 06. They won the MAC that year. And then they lost to Memphis State and D'Angelo Williams in the bowl game that year. But I tell you, the years have not been good at Akron. The Terry Bowden era was not necessarily the best for them. Literally a program that's really in down shape right now.
Absolutely. Anything else, David?
Yeah.
I'm guessing we're putting people to sleep, or they're shutting us off talking about Akron and Kent football. But that was on the title. I started it. It was. I am not certainly not blaming you. I started it.
No, one last yeah, on the Michigan thing, by the way, Mark. I saw one stat on recruiting. I had to throw this out to you. Okay. Only 3 teams. I don't know if you heard this. Have more 4- and 5-star recruits on their roster than Michigan has right now. Did you know this?
I did not.
It's Georgia, Alabama, and Ohio State. Those are the only 3 programs with more 4- and 5-star recruits than Michigan has right now. Proving, once again, that lack of player development up there.
Mm-hmm.
It's very weak.
Yeah.
So I just had to get that out there because I couldn't believe that stat. I couldn't believe they actually have more 4- and 5-star recruits than Clemson. That doesn't. I mean, how much does that surprise you?
It surprises me. Now, those numbers can slightly be skewed. They can be a little bit skewed, but not much. It's very difficult to skew that much. They could be really on the low end of the 4 stars, for example. But case in point, it can't be skewed hardly at all. Not much. Yeah, it surprises me.
Yeah, I was a little bit floored by it too, and I guess if there's another way that you can indict his lack of success, that would be yet another way to do it. But I had to throw that out there. Hey, one last thought before I let you go on the Ohio State game, Mark. What's the line at? Is it still 23-24, something like that?
I don't know. I had a discussion today with Pat Murphy from Bucknuts, and he said it was 21. I haven't looked at it.
Okay. It may have come down a couple points. If it's right around that 23-24, I'm thinking about taking Indiana this week. I got to be honest with you. I think they're going to be able to move the ball against their secondary. I don't know if you have any early thoughts on it, but I think their wide receivers, Watt-Hillier, and I cannot pronounce the other receiver's name. I think it's Freifogel, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
I think they can cause the Ohio State secondary some problems. I think Penix can make some plays. I'm confident the Buckeyes win by 2 scores. I just don't know if they win by 3 scores. Just early thoughts. Do you have any early thoughts on that one?
My early thoughts are that I said this to Pat today when we recorded, that along the same lines that you're going, that I thought, I do believe, I'm taking a quick scan of the Big Ten, I do believe that Indiana has the 2nd best wide receiver core, including the tight end, Hendershot, in the Big Ten. So I do think that that's an interesting matchup, and one that Indiana can take advantage of if Michael Penix is having a good day. They are not running the ball well. So I would think that Ohio State would really lean toward helping its secondary and pass defense and rely on its defenders in the box to stop the run, because Indiana has not been able to run on anyone. Their top 2 rushers, James and Scott, are only at 3.2 and 3.6 yards per carry. So I consider that an interesting strategy move for the Buckeyes in regards to understanding their weaknesses, but where they've been extremely strong in rush defense and Indiana very weak, and if they can make Indiana one-dimensional. So that's my initial thought.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if that defensive line can get a better pass rush. We really like to see Harrison and Cooper, some of those guys, step up and get a little bit better pass rush this week too. So, I mean, only 1 sack against Rutgers was a little disappointing. So, I like to see those guys get going as well. So, hey, you going to run the live stream again on Friday, Mark?
The live stream on Friday, I don't know. We'll see. I don't know.
Okay. All right. All right, my friend. Well, you have yourself a good evening. Good talking to you.
Thanks, David. Appreciate it.
Yep. Take care.
Kyle, thank you. Right there. Appreciate that. Kyle's in the chat. He's not been online much, I understand, here recently. See everybody else in the live chat as well. And we've got Eli, not Raheem. My thoughts on Maryland, Michigan State. Well, Maryland looks like a much better football team right now. The Michigan State effort in Ann Arbor certainly has to be underlined. I watched just about every play of that game. The Michigan State beat Michigan there, throwing for about 325 and 3 touchdowns, and Ricky White going off, and Rocky Lombardi having his best game as a collegiate. And then Michigan State, other than the Michigan effort, loses to Rutgers by 2 scores, loses to Iowa by 6 touchdowns, gets shut out by Indiana. Maryland, of course, had the effort that they had or lack thereof against Northwestern, coming off 8 losses last year, losing by an average of 38 points per game, but they've got a quarterback, Talia Tagovailoa. They'd really have something if they had Tua, but Talia's pretty good. He's the best Maryland quarterback. I would have to go through the archives. I'm going to say the best Maryland quarterback, and I'm stating this after just 3 games, in at least 10 years. There were a couple decent Maryland teams in the mid-2000s, but generally Maryland fell off in Ralph Friedgen's last few seasons in the early 2000s. And that's the last time they had really good quarterback play. So I like Maryland in that game off the top of my head. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark. Sooner Thrawn. How are you, man?
Sooner Thrawn. What's going on?
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I hadn't called in a while. But, a little bit earlier today. I don't know. But I have been listening, following some of the shows. But I was enjoying the Kent State talk. I was.
The Kent State talk? Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't realize Glenn Mason was there before Kansas because he beat Oklahoma several times in Kansas. That's when we were bad in the 90s. And then I remember in Kansas, he was going to take, I think it was the Georgia job.
Oh,
and then,
yeah.
And then he, at the last minute, before the bowl, changed his mind and went back to Kansas. And then the next year, he went to Minnesota. He turned, wasn't it the Georgia job?
That rings a bell. That rings a bell.
I think he took it. And then he changed his mind.
Yeah, I got it right here. Yeah. Mason accepted the head coaching position at the University of Georgia. Mason had a change of heart and stayed with the Jayhawks. Can you imagine somebody now turning down the Georgia job to stay at Kansas and then go to Minnesota the next year?
Yeah, that's what was funny. If he went to Minnesota the next year, I could understand. I mean, I can't even understand it now, but let's just say back then, he decided he wanted to live in Kansas, that he was going to retire, whatever. No, he just went to Minnesota the next year. But that didn't make, that was a weird,
keep this in mind. Keep this in mind, Sooner Thrawn. In 1995, this was when he was offered the Georgia job after this season. This is about ridiculous to think about because this is about the time that Jim Donnan would have been at Georgia, right? Maybe right after Ray Goff. Maybe Ray Goff, late 80s, early 90s into Jim Donnan. And, Georgia had good seasons, but they weren't. They had some 5-win seasons, some 6-win seasons. Glenn Mason was offered the Georgia job after going 10-2, winning the Aloha Bowl, and finishing number 9 in the country. At Kansas.
At Kansas. there's been a few times that Mangino, he got what was that about?
07. That was their big year, 07. Yeah.
12 years later, he got one win from probably playing for the national championship, and he beat Missouri.
Yeah.
And if he had beat up Oklahoma, he played for the national championship.
Yep. They went 12-1.
Missouri and beat Missouri. I don't know.
And they clocked Virginia Tech in a BCS bowl game.
Yeah. I just can't believe the guy turning down Georgia to go back to Kansas.
That's funny. Yeah.
And Donnan actually, when I was in high school, I went to a football camp in Oklahoma City, and he knew my high school coach real well. And I got to meet Don a few times. I think that was when he maybe was at Marshall. Wasn't he at Marshall before Georgia?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, because I was covering the SEC at the time that Donnan was at Georgia, and I remember, him taking the Georgia job coming from Marshall. Yep.
Yeah, he was doing it. He did camps, and he was doing camp at Oklahoma City. And I was meeting him just from the camp. That's it. But then he pretty soon went to Georgia after that. So never saw him again. But,
no.
So what do you think about Bedlam? I'm going up Saturday morning. I'm going to the game.
I think it's going to be a great game. I really do think it's going to be a great game. After watching Oklahoma State play a number of times this year, I've seen them more than Oklahoma. I think they have the best team in the Big 12, but I don't think it's by much. I think it's going to be. I'll be surprised if it's not just a tremendous game.
Yeah. Oklahoma was playing pretty solid the last few games, so they haven't really played. They won't really play anybody. TCU, Tech, Kansas, but they have looked pretty dominant. Their front four, I think it's the OU. I think the OU front four on defense, they're pretty strong. They even started showing that as a Texas. They put Sam on the ground a lot.
And they got Ronnie Perkins back after that, right?
They got Perkins back. And on offense, they have Rashad Stevenson. If you haven't seen the last two OU games, then you don't really understand the difference that guy makes at running back.
Yep.
He's like he's definitely he's a big, fast guy. They had pretty fast guy, and they had a few big guys. They didn't have anybody that runs smooth like him. And he's not been beat up very much because he hasn't played. And then last year he backed up Brooks, and he was at times he showed flashes, but Brooks got most of the carries. So, but he's the front four for Oklahoma has been pretty dominant. I think that's going to be I think that could be the difference because Oklahoma State's their offensive line has not been as good this year. They don't run the ball like I thought they would. Their defense is better, but Hubbard and Brown, their running game was not that great. And they were real fortunate to beat Kansas State. They were losing the whole game, and they had a defensive touchdown. But Sanders, he's a good athlete, but he also can make turnovers. I think we can get it to. I like their chances. But it is amazing with 3 games left that there are 5 teams that are still in the running for the Big 12 title game. That's not normal. Usually there's 3 games left. There's not 5 teams. There may be 2 or 3 that are still running.
I know it. It's a crazy race.
And, do you think if Michigan, Harbaugh leaves or whatever, that Matt Campbell would go to Michigan?
Well, when people ask me questions like that, I don't know the hearts and minds of individuals, so I don't know what his priorities are, but Michigan's a better job than Iowa State, so if all he is concerned with is making more money and building a football legacy, then yeah.
It's kind of like the South Carolina, which I don't think South Carolina is a very good job. I think they pay you well and you have all the facilities and everything, but I think South Carolina is just, it doesn't seem like anybody, I mean, Spurrier was the one who lose it a little, but it's just so difficult to win there.
He moved it quite a bit.
Spurrier and Lou didn't have to worry about Clemson now.
No.
I mean, they were actually probably good or better. Now Clemson is the elite team, and that's just another thing that's deal. That's a really, really difficult job.
Yeah, it is.
But I mean, Hugh Freeze, I mean, he definitely get paid a lot more, but I don't know. He might just, if they offered him, he probably won't take it because now he'd stay at Liberty for half of what he's making in South Carolina. But they said game day's come to Norman for the first time since 2012. But I was surprised to hear they've been to the seventh Bedlam game. I know you 6-0 in those. So I like her. But of course, game day is not very much of a big deal now because it's all a COVID deal. They just all are by themselves, and that, it's just another pregame show to me. It used to be, it was much more unique with the other thing, but this year it's just kind of another pregame show because it doesn't have all the cool things about game day. It's not their fault, but that's true. There's all the funny signs.
Yep.
And of course, so he's not even there at his house every time. That's the same without Lee.
Yeah, I can't. It's funny because my last couple of years at ESPN, actually the guy that is in charge of audio for College Game Day reported to me, but I haven't watched it, and I think it's a tremendous show. I think it's the gold standard. I think it's great, which I'm kind of contradicting myself because I really haven't watched more than 2 minutes of College Game Day probably for 15 years. I just never watch it. It doesn't cross my mind. I'm just going to watch so much football during the day that I don't turn the TV. It's kind of my Saturday morning is to catch up on a bunch of stuff, and I don't even tune in.
I really don't that much either. I did think it was funny though when they had Katy Perry, and she tried to basically call, ironically, the worst OU quarterback in the last 10 years, Trevor Knight, out.
Oh, that's right.
She was calling him out. Yeah, she wanted to date him.
I heard about that. Yeah.
I don't know why Knight never did, because I heard he never touched contact her. He's probably going to go back and regret that.
Yeah, he would have been set for life. I can't speak much to really wanting anything to do with Katy Perry otherwise, but he would be set for life.
Yeah. That was when he was still a hot commodity. He was still just a few games off of it after the Alabama game. And then I think OU started maybe 3-0 and then lost to TCU. And then after that, there was injuries. I think we ended up about 8-4 that year. And then the next year, he lost to be able to Baker and on the bench. Oh, by the way, did you see the Hail Murray with the Cardinals?
Oh, yeah.
Tyler's something else. Because he's the best guy for a Hail Mary because he's so fast, he can run around to the defense. He's never got any problem with defense. And then he has that great pop. He's the ideal guy to have for a Hail Mary. But sometimes those quarterbacks, they're slow and have trouble getting out of the pocket, getting away, but he can get it away from them and then throw it far. But I don't know. It's between four guys. That was amazing. It was just amazing. It was amazing. So how do you think it's going to play out with if A&M wins out and Florida beats Alabama? Like who has
Well, we
has
talked
the
about
right.
this. Yeah,
that's
somebody raised that scenario to me the other day, and I just was playing devil's advocate at giving each one of those three teams has an argument.
Yeah.
Texas A&M beat Florida. They've got the argument. Florida wins the SEC. They've got the conference championship. Alabama's got the best overall resume, and they beat A&M by 4 touchdowns. So there's not a clear-cut winner, but Florida's got the SEC, and they beat Alabama in the most recent game. They're going to be in if they win the SEC with 1 loss. Florida's going to be in the playoff. Now, whether one of the other 2 gets selected, I would think it would be Alabama with a head-to-head win. And then A&M can just say, well, we beat Florida head-to-head. We got the same record. And I get that. I'm all for that. But it's the reason you play in a conference.
Yeah. So if Notre Dame loses a close one to Clemson, will we get Clemson and Notre Dame free? And they wouldn't put them against each other in the semi. They just wouldn't do that. They just wouldn't do it. But you could get them in the final. That's why I want either Notre Dame or Clemson to have 2 losses, because I don't want Notre Dame, Clemson 3 in the championship game.
What if
I don't want to be a 3 team.
I'm trying to determine? I'm trying to determine a scenario in which they can't avoid it. Like if Ohio State's, if Alabama's the consensus number 1, they're undefeated. They blow everybody away. They just have the most impressive resume. Their consensus just number 1. And then Notre Dame and Clemson split. They're both really good. They only have 1 loss. And then somebody squeaks in as the 4 seed. I don't know who that would be, Cincinnati or somebody, Oklahoma State or somebody, if Ohio State falters. And they have to play Clemson and Notre Dame as the 2 and the 3. I don't want to see. We already have a situation in which not enough teams get to play each other. I don't want to see 2 teams play 3 times.
Particularly this year.
Yeah, exactly.
We didn't have it all conference, and I mean, yeah, it was a great game, but I don't want to see it. I think the committee. I don't think they. I mean, I really think the committee, whoever got in before, I think they would just make it where there was for sure they would not play them. Because because I think they would know no one wants to see that again unless it has to be in the championship. I guess maybe Cincinnati, but even I still push them to 3 and push the other. I mean, that would probably be unlikely, but I'd rather. I just think I just really think the committee would only want that in the championship because you have voters if they would have to look win. But I just don't want to. That's why I hope that. I've never cheered for Notre Dame ever, but if that means them beating Clemson again, they went up and Clemson's out. I'd rather that be than have a chance to have Clemson Notre Dame delete. But the interesting scenario is that, if Wisconsin plays enough games, because I think you have to play at least 5, 6 games to even be eligible, and they are really close. But if they were to win out and somehow knock Ohio State off in a really close game, obviously they would be in. But then if you had the Clemson, you'd have a really messed up if Clemson beat Notre Dame. But then Ohio State would be, those are really close. They would have. I don't know how to determine it. I just wish they'd have gone to 18. That would make it a lot easier. It would just be so much better, particularly this year.
It would be every year. Should be 8.
Yeah, it needs to be 8. It just needs to be. We could have 5, 10 conference champions or 3 at large, and that would just make it, or just make something when you win the conference. I mean, like Alabama can lose the Clemson to Florida, not win the conference, and they'll probably for sure still get in. Unless they get blown out, they'd have to look pretty bad. But by the way, Trask, I think Trask, he looks like to me he's playing. If he just keeps going like the way he's been doing, he's going to win it. Because I don't think Fields is going to play enough games, and Lawrence kind of got knocked around COVID. like everything else, COVID has screwed things up. And Trask has just been phenomenal, even in the one loss. Almost 400 yards, 3 touchdowns at the thing end. Can't say easily that loss because the defense had a bunch of players out. But his numbers are as good in the first 6 games as Burrow's were last year.
Yep. Yes, they are.
Good. And he'll have to be the first. He has to be the first high school Heisman winner he wins that never started in high school. And that can't have never happened.
Sure.
Except he started in front of him. There's no way that's ever happened before.
Nope.
That's the most bizarre thing. The only reason he got a scholarship in Florida because he went to one of the camps. The other offers he had was like Northwestern State, Texas State, and like Houston Baptist and Florida. Don't you think he's probably going to win it if he just?
Well, I would vote for him right now. He would get my vote. His numbers are comparable to Mac Jones's. He's got more touchdown passes, but they're pretty similar. Jones has a better completion percentage, but just the optic that he's taken Florida over the hurdle of Georgia and gotten them there, whereas Mac Jones is really good, but not a lot of quarterbacks, but he hasn't done anything special that Alabama's not done before.
Right. He's just got to roll it like they normally do, where Trask has got him over the big Georgia hump, and unless something crazy happens, he's going to try to get him to the conference championship game. If he doesn't beat Alabama, that might, I don't know. You think if he goes long, but then they lose a close one to Alabama, that's Italian, would he still get it?
Sure.
As long as he's put, I think he probably.
There's all sorts of Heisman Trophy winners with 3 and 4 losses. Yeah, if he plays well, if he plays poorly, that's another story. But if he plays well and they lose 35-31, I think he'll win it. All right, Sooner Thrawn, I'm going to answer a lot of these questions that are coming down the chat here.
All right, man.
Appreciate the call.
Well, I'll send you a few photos from Bedlam.
That sounds good. Do that. Appreciate it. Have a good time.
All right. Take it easy, man. Bye.
Bedlam should be good this year. Should be a good one. Usually is, although Oklahoma's got a pretty dominant run going. So I was going to pose this question that falls in line with what Joseph is serving up there about the group of 5. So to follow up on Sooner Thrawn's conversation there, this is what I believe would be fair and also entertaining, exciting, would be either there has to be an 18 playoff for obvious reasons, and for anybody that wants to have that debate, I've had it a million times, just call the show. There needs to be an 18 playoff without the group of 5. Now, if there's an 18 playoff and we give a spot to the best group of 5, then that's a huge improvement, But if you really want to do it right and be fair, then you either do an 18 playoff and exclude the group of 5, call it for what it is and say, go play your own championship. Or, as was suggested there in the live chat that I've been talking about for years and years and years and years, I should repost these videos that I used to do all the time talking about playoff systems when I had 32 subscribers, is we should take 16 teams and all 10 conferences get in. And I know that a lot of people would argue against that and have, because you're not going to have the 16 best teams in the country. And I understand your argument. I actually agree with it on some level. It's a very similar concept to the NCAA basketball tournament, that basically if we took a 16-team playoff and included the group of 5 and all the conference championships, all 10, then what you basically have is the 5 Power 5 conference champions are 5 of the best teams in the country. And then your wild cards, those 6 are going to be the very best that didn't win a conference. So you've got the 11 best teams in the country are going to make the playoffs under that format. And then you're basically going to like drop to maybe the American Conference champion in a normal year is going to be maybe the 20th best team in the country. And then your Sun Belt champion is, I don't care where they're ranked, they're usually the 30th best team in the country, the 40th best team in the country. Then you're going to have, the MAC champion that's like the 70th best team in the country. And I have no issue with that. I think that would actually be fun. And you would have the 11 best teams in the country. Almost certainly the 11 best would be there because they'd be the Power 5 champions and the 6 wild cards. And I would have to devise a system I have in the past. I need to go dig it up of determining those wild cards. And then those other 5 conference champions. Now, a Boise State, a UCF, and a Cincinnati now, yes, they're in that mix of the top 15 team. But then you're going to have, and we'd have to put up with it, you're going to have some ugly first-round games. You are going to have some Ohio State 49, Appalachian State 13 games. You're going to have those games. And we'll just have to put up with them. You're only going to have a couple. But wouldn't it be fascinating? Wouldn't it be fascinating? It may take 5 years for it to happen. Might take 10 years for it to happen. But to see the first round upset of Buffalo beat Clemson 31-30. It'll happen some year. It would happen some year. Might take 10 years to happen. So one of those 2 playoff systems are the ones that I propose. I need to save myself a lot of work and go back, dig up all those videos I used to shoot all the time that probably only Navy Thomas remembers, and repost those in the off season. Maybe clean them up a little bit. Maybe just post them as is, and you guys would be like, man, Mark looks good today. All right. He looks like 8 years younger. So my question was going to be, so Joseph, not to ignore you because you got me going there. Who's the best group of 5 team? Cincinnati. That is my opinion. Cincinnati. They continue to beat the best teams in the American Conference and beat them decidedly. Memphis. They've got UCF coming up. That'll be a good game. But for me right now, it's Cincinnati. My question was going to be, now let's assume that the 3 best teams in the country are Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State. Maybe they're not. Certainly, if you believe otherwise, throw it in the chat. But let's say it's Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State. Who is the 4th best team in the country? Here are my selections. Notre Dame, Florida, Texas A&M, Cincinnati, Wisconsin, even though they have yet to really prove it, Wisconsin, Oregon, Oklahoma State, BYU, Liberty. BYU and Liberty are not anywhere close to the 4th best team in the country. But they're playing themselves into a position to be considered. It's nice to consider them, but BYU's not played anyone, and at Liberty beat Virginia Tech on a fluke play at the end of the game. Kudos and accolades to Liberty, but come on. If that's Alabama, Ohio State on the field with Virginia Tech, what are they doing? They're killing them. So Liberty is not the 4th best team in the country. But again, they've played themselves into this position to at least be talked about. It's fun. Indiana lost a linebacker to a serious hip injury. Does this hurt their chances? Well, harpoon. Of course, it hurts their chances. How significantly? That was actually Tom Allen's son, who was a starting linebacker at Indiana. Besides him being the starting linebacker, it's not like I've evaluated his play. He's good enough to start at Indiana at linebacker. So they're missing a starting linebacker. Will that impact the game to the extent of deciding a game? No. But there's an impact. Every team's different in every unit on the team. A particular team could lose a linebacker and their next guy, and maybe even the guy after that, maybe they're really deep at linebacker and they've got 6 linebackers and they're all really good. They're all about the same. Other teams, man, they've got their best defensive player plays defensive end and he just can't be replaced. There's a huge drop-off. We just don't know that. Doug says, Mark Mangino, another head coach that should have gotten another chance, all because a few guys get their feelings hurt. Yep, out the door at Kansas. Is he the only coach to ever have a winning record at Kansas? Well, I believe Glenn Mason did. Let me verify that. Glenn Mason, no, Glenn Mason was under 500, okay? 47-54, 7 games under 500. Because he started off bad and he ended badly. But in the middle, 6-6, 8-4, 5-7, 6-6, 10-2. All right. Eli, there's so much pressure coaching in the SEC. I'd prefer to coach at a low pressure place, much better job security. All right. Let's catch everybody up on what's going on. Today, I sat here from 11:30 in the morning until 7 o'clock recording videos. Ohio State and Texas and USC and Alabama, Auburn, Oklahoma, Texas, and others. So be watching out for those videos. Tomorrow's Wednesday. That means we've got our Ohio State Live show at 2 o'clock Eastern Time. Ohio State Live at 2 o'clock Eastern Time tomorrow. We're going to be talking for the first time, I believe, ever to an Indiana media person. I have flagged down an Indiana media person from Rivals. We're going to talk to them tomorrow. But we've got Ohio State Live at 2 o'clock Eastern Time. Florida State Live at 6. SEC Live at 8. We need sponsors for those shows. Please let me know what you can do in regards to either maybe you own a business, maybe you know of a business, or know somebody who owns a business who could benefit from a great deal in getting the word out there. So again, Ohio State, Florida State, and SEC live shows tomorrow at 2, 6, and 8 Eastern. We need sponsors. And if you would like your team to be represented with a show, let me know and we'll get a sponsor. You get a sponsor, we'll do the show. Somebody wanted a Nebraska show, they got a sponsor. We've got a Nebraska show. Now that sponsorship could be running out and then we will need to replace them. I don't want to discontinue the Nebraska show, but just a heads up on that. It's about 6 weeks away from possibly being discontinued. So we want to keep these shows going, so help us get sponsorships. We do our college football coast to coast show every Monday at noon Eastern time. So check that out over on Pigskin Pete's channel. Pigskin Pete has hosted it for the first 3 months. It's going to come on over here for the next 3 months here in a few weeks. So starting the first week of December, be looking out for college football coast to coast with Pigskin Pete right here, noon Eastern time every Monday. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Go to my community page. Check out the poll there. So the question is, I want to do a daily or nightly show. What is the best time for you? When should I do a daily or nightly show, Monday through Friday? And preferably with a sponsor. So let's get a sponsor for that. Patreon. Join us on Patreon. 15 cents a day. You get the insider look into Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. You get my predictions. You get the betting advice from Steve Merrill, which we are shooting a segment on a Thursday, which we're going to delve a little bit deeper and go into some betting advice from Steve Merrill from Pro Sports Info. And you also, of course, what else do you get? Watch parties, exclusive live streams as well per request. Amazon, shop the link, get the link on Amazon. Go to the description section of any video. Please help us build the channel by going and grabbing that Amazon link. It's the same exact shopping experience. I gotta think out of 22,000 subscribers and 56 people online that many of you shop Amazon. Just grab the link that I provide in the description section of any video, put it somewhere where you'll remember it, and you're going to help us build the channel because we got to build this up. I'm not going to guarantee this, but we're probably going to give this like a 1 year just run, like working 16, 17, 18 hours a day, like I have been for the past month. Full throttle for like a year. Hopefully we can make it. We will make it with your help. All right, what else do we got going in here? Doug is asking my take on why Ralph Friedgen or Mark Mangino never got another head coaching job. Man, I'd have to think back to what was going on at those times. Friedgen finished up in Maryland. I was talking about him. Of course, the most successful Maryland coach in quite some time. You'd have to go back to Bobby Ross back in the 1980s. And Mark Mangino at Kansas. I don't know what really what the stigma was surrounding either one of those gentlemen after that. I don't know. I don't remember other than faltering at the end of their run. And again, Mangino had complaints that worked against him there at Kansas. But why they didn't get jobs after that, I don't know. Because certainly they weren't involved in anything close to what Hugh Freeze was involved in. And Hugh Freeze, boom, he's back at Liberty. And apparently, check out the video we shot and posted with Will Gunter, who's on Columbia, South Carolina radio. He believes that Hugh Freeze is the #1 candidate. He believes that Hugh Freeze, from a football standpoint, and I think the same thing. I made the statement as soon as Muschamp got fired that if all South Carolina thinks about is football and doesn't mind the PR baggage, then they're going to go with Hugh Freeze. Kyle, thank you so much. Appreciate that. Encouraging everyone to hit the like button. And a number of you comment in the live chat that let's say there's 100 on the line and we only have 40 likes. Keep in mind that when you see that there might be 100 on the line right now, there's probably actually more like 400 or 500 that have gone through the stream and we've only got 40 likes. When was Arkansas in the Big 12? Arkansas was in the Southwest Conference prior to 1992. Arkansas and South Carolina joined the SEC in 1992. South Carolina is an independent, and Arkansas from the Southwest Conference when it folded and rolled into some of those schools into the Big 8. Texas went into the Big 8, and Arkansas came into the SEC. The Southwest Conference was almost entirely a Texas program, a Texas conference. Was there anybody else in the Southwest Conference besides Texas schools? They were all Texas schools. You just had Arkansas, then you had Texas, Texas Tech, Baylor, SMU, TCU, Southwest Conference. Yeah, there were only 7 or 8 teams in the old Southwest Conference, which folded around right around that time that Arkansas joined the SEC, and then Texas went into the Big 12, or went into the Big 8. Oklahoma and Nebraska ruled the Big 8. The Big 8 was much of what the Big 12 is right now. There it is. Reasonable Gump's got it. Young Kids Midwest likes the Buckeyes to win this one over Indiana big, 55-21. Oh, yeah, the old Southwest Conference was awesome. Yes, it was. And, of course, Texas A&M was in the Southwest Conference. Texas A&M playing every year, Joseph. That would be great, as they used to. Young Kids Midwest. If the Buckeyes come out swinging and have addressed the issues while playing all 4 quarters, they'll beat the pants off the Hoosiers. But IU is scoring some points. Yes, 2007, Kansas. Yep. With Todd Reesing at quarterback and Aqib Talib at corner. Harpoon Bakery. Will Mark Richt ever get a top-tier head coaching position again? I don't know that he wants one. Or has he worn out his welcome mat down to the metal rods? When was Akron any good? Never. Doug likes a 16-team playoff. Okay, anything else in here I need to get to? I guess we will go ahead and look forward to this weekend. And again, I'm going to invite everyone and encourage you to head to my community page. So if you go to the front page of my YouTube channel, go to the community page, and you'll see the question there about when I should be hosting a live show every day or every night. And I give various times like noon, early afternoon, late afternoon, evening, then like late prime time, and then like late night. Let's go to this week's games. Unless you guys have anything else here. All right, I got a call coming in. It's Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mr. Mark, I got a quick question for you.
Yeah.
So when you're doing
Reasonable Gump, everyone.
At the bottom of your screen,
yes.
You like posting comments.
Yeah.
is there any kind of magic button you can hit that'll just fast forward you to where everyone is currently?
Well,
because one big problem is you're like 45 minutes behind.
well, so yeah, that does become a problem because people respond to a certain extent. You guys are having your own conversations, so those don't matter when I post them. But yeah, I understand some people are making comments based on what I'm talking about. But the problem is if I skip all the way ahead, then I'm going to miss all sorts of comments and questions that people want me to respond to, number one. Number two, if I fast forward to where we are currently, then I cannot go back and post the other ones. I can only go back so far.
Okay. I mean, yeah, I've never streamed before. I'm not sure how that works. I know there are some streamers who do seem to respond pretty quickly to people who are talking. So I guess there's an option. You can either do what you're doing or just let it play and scroll back in real time or something.
Well, again, I jump on here, I start talking, and whatever guest I have on, or if I talk for 5 or 10 minutes before I dive into the comments, then I'm 10 or 15 minutes behind to start. And I'm just saying that there are people who make comments or give questions that want me to respond to them. And if I just skip down to the current time, then I'm not going to be able to go back and get those. Which is not the end of the world.
No, well, I mean, you can always just ask them to retype it since you're about to go to the you know, what everyone's currently saying.
Let's see, what time is it? It's 12:10. Here we go. Right now, we are on the most recent comment. It's a crucial one from NCIS Fanatic 21 who says, "What's up, everyone?" So yeah, that's how that works. Anthony's telling me I sound a little corporate. Don't know what that means.
I'll be the middleman for you
okay.
Real quick, Mark. One guy was wondering what was the appeal of having Rutgers in the Big Ten?
Okay.
Wondering if Mark, who is Mr. Big Ten over here.
I am? I thought it was Mr. College Football. Some people think I'm Mr. SEC.
I noticed that, actually. A lot of SEC homer accusations.
The reason that Maryland and Rutgers were brought into the Big Ten was what was thought to be a financial reason, but it didn't turn out to be one. They thought it was going to be a big coup because nobody in 2011, 2012, when the decision was made, knew that the future of media was in digital media, online, and not cable markets and cable television. And the Big Ten just simply thought Rutgers is in New York City and Maryland can bring us Baltimore and Washington, D.C. And those are, we can kind of string together the East Coast and all those cable markets and all those subscribers to the Big Ten network. And that's why we're going to get Maryland and Rutgers. That's the only reason.
Oh, it comes back to money, doesn't it?
And it doesn't matter because nobody in New York City could give a damn about Rutgers anyway. So their thinking was flawed. Their thinking was flawed, first and foremost, in overestimating the appeal of Maryland and Rutgers football. And basketball's an afterthought, a secondary thought. And then on top of that, you know, within 4 or 5 years, cable started to die. Not that it's not still a significant component, but it's all about digital media and being online. So cable subscribers don't matter as much. Yep, it was a bad decision. That's what it was.
And what do you, another thing we were talking about not too long ago, what do you think of bringing Nebraska into the Big Ten? Are they a Big Ten school? Do they feel like they belong there?
No.
How do you think the thoughts are for?
I expected it to go better than it did because at the time that they came into the Big Ten, they were better than they are now. They had much more success in the Big 12. Of course, way back in the Big 12, of course, they had amazing success. But even at the time that they left the Big 12, they were going to conference championship games in the Big 12. Their last at least two teams, if not three teams, made it to conference championship games. Then they step into the Big 10 and they're suddenly better than mediocre, but not great. They're still getting beat up by the better teams as soon as they stepped into the league. So I thought it was a bad. Well, they did it for financial reasons, of course. The Big Ten had its sights set on competing with the SEC. That wasn't really a coup for the Big Ten financially, I don't think, except for some better national games, or what could have been better national games, thinking back to 2011. So I thought it was a better move for the Big Ten at the time than I do now. I thought it was great. I liked it. I just strictly thinking from a football standpoint, anything to increase the Big Ten brand and the quality on the field. But Nebraska's not turned out to be much of a gain for the Big Ten. I don't think.
I'm not always sure that quantity trumps quality when talking about number of teams in a conference. I mean, because if we could get rid of, well, for example, we brought Texas A&M in the SEC, and there's absolutely no arguing that they are, not a better program now than they were when they're in the Big 12. They're not in the top in the elite tier of the SEC, but if you were to match the Texas A&M teams up against the ones they had when they were in the Big 12, I'm pretty sure they'd stomp all over them every time.
Pretty much.
Because they're no longer they're no longer sitting inside a Texas shadow anymore. But while we've, I guess, somewhat elevated our strength from just powerhouse football team standings, I'm not so sure it didn't actually hurt us more financially. I'm not sure SEC could be making more money now if we had the games of Alabama, Georgia, or Alabama, Florida, or LSU, Georgia, Auburn, Tennessee, if we didn't have those more often, if not every year. Because bringing in more teams like that means you have to sacrifice those kind of games. I mean, in a normal season, right now, Alabama's only going to play Georgia once every 6 years, barring the SEC championship. And that's insane. But think about how much revenue that game alone would make if it was played, maybe not every year, but if it was played every 3 or 4 years, like it used to be when the SEC was its 12 teams. So I wonder if this idea of bringing in these, name brand programs into your conference, if that's not actually somewhat hurtful instead of beneficial.
Well, I would rework SEC scheduling as it is, because these cross-division rivalries are mostly non-existent and a waste of matchups, and they would if they were disbanded, excluding the 3 that matter, LSU, Florida, Auburn, Georgia, and Alabama, Tennessee, then that would give more freedom to schedule better games.
Right. All right, last question, Mark. I can tell you're just kind of waiting for me to slide on off there.
No, not necessarily. Why?
I'm going to ask you about something you said earlier.
Okay.
All right. So you said you think right now Mac Jones and Kyle Trask are roughly comparable as far as like the race for the best quarterback. Kyle's got more touchdowns. Mac has better percentage.
Race for the Heisman. Race for the Heisman.
Right.
I would rather have Justin Fields playing quarterback for me than Kyle Trask. We're just talking about who's better.
Okay.
But yeah, who's putting up numbers?
I hate saying race for the Heisman because the Heisman talk is such a cliche right now. So
yeah. Yeah, I got you.
Sounds like a dirty word for me to use.
Yep.
But anyway, so you said earlier that you think the two are basically comparable. So then why would you think that if Florida were to lose to Alabama, that you're still going to give it to Kyle Trask? If the two are comparable, then don't you think it should go to whichever quarterback leads his team to a victory?
Okay, so when I answer those questions, unless somebody defines it for me or I define it for myself and let the person know I'm going to answer it this way, there's always the answer, what would I do? And then how should it be versus what do I think is going to happen, or what do I think those people are going to determine, or how is it going to be? There's always that. I think that Mac Jones has a burden of proof to a certain extent, because it's assumed he's playing with the best wide receiver core, he's playing with the best talent, and Alabama goes to SEC championship games most of the time, versus Kyle Trask lifting Florida past Georgia to an SEC title game and doing something significant there that's not done nearly as often as it is at Alabama. If you follow me there.
I do.
So I think that's why. And then if Kyle Trask is able to play well, then he's not going to be blamed for the loss. It's if anything, it's going to be looked at as maybe because of his exceptional play, Florida was able to stay in the game and make it a great game.
And that's what you think will happen?
Do I think I would vote for Kyle Trask right now myself, and I believe if there was a vote today, Kyle Trask would win the Heisman Trophy. I believe, and I think that although winning is huge, just look at the last 20 years. There are all sorts of Heisman winners who lost multiple games. Johnny Manziel, Robert Griffin III.
I know that, but usually they're not. Usually they're not head to head with the second finalist. It's just sitting right next to you. That the guy you just lost to. The biggest example I can think of is exactly that was when Deshaun Watson lost it to Lamar Jackson despite winning the game against him, which I continue to this day say was idiocy.
Oh, I thought it was idiocy too. The year that Lamar Jackson won the Heisman Trophy.
To me, I am more. I guess I do lean towards. If Florida and Alabama were not on a collision course, then I would be more inclined to. Let's run the numbers, and let's run. Where these quarterbacks were. Who's managed to kind of come out of nowhere, or who is this expected of. And I would kind of, just kind of play it the way it normally play. And of course, I think wins should be more important than they are. I don't like 3-loss Heismans. I just don't. Tim Tebow's one, RG3 was one, which I thought was also dumb. Andrew Luck should have won it that year. But anyway, yeah, that's just me. I think the Heisman really seems to be a chance I win the game.
You understand that your standard can be debated just because you didn't give it a clear cut. You should win a championship or a conference championship. Why 3 losses? Why not 2 losses? Why not 1 loss? Why? Like what's your dividing line just to throw out 3 losses should be the eliminator?
Well, 3 losses and you probably haven't won your division, and you probably haven't won the conference at least.
Johnny Manziel should not have won the Heisman.
Pretty good competition that year, though.
Oh my goodness!
I didn't say it was a firm disqualifier. I said I generally don't like it because there's usually always been someone more deserving. See, Johnny Manziel his situation was a lot different than when RG3 won it. He didn't have an Andrew Luck sitting or Troy Richardson or Honey Badgers sitting right next to him. He was basically by himself.
Johnny Manziel. Number 2 that year, Manti Te'o.
I rest my case.
Colin Klein was number 3. Marquise Lee of USC was number 4. Braxton Miller was 5. Jadeveon Clowney was 6. Yeah. Johnny Manziel was a clear-cut Heisman winner. Although, do you know what the first place count was? Manziel 474, Te'o 321. It's pretty close. Wow.
In any case, I wasn't saying it was a disqualifying factor. I mean, if you're the only guy who's even comparable to win, then you're the only guy. But in any case, it's kind of gotten a little off. I'm just saying, if Alabama and Florida were not on the collegiate course, then I would probably be leaning towards Kyle Trask as well. But when the two are basically comparable to each other, then to me, I just got to say, which one of these guys can lead their team to a victory?
Okay.
Who can step up in the spot in the biggest game of the year and get it done?
What if Mac Jones wins the game and Trask plays a better game?
Like how much better? Are we talking no touchdowns to 4, or are we talking?
Well,
9 out of 30.
That would be drawing up some kind of crazy scenario that's going to be difficult to fulfill, because if one quarterback goes off and the other one doesn't, well, it's kind of unlikely that he's not going to win the game. Trask has a 30 for 35 game, throws for 400, throws 5 touchdowns, and Mac Jones throws a couple touchdowns and a pick, and I don't know. I'm just saying there are quarterbacks who outplay other quarterbacks that lose the game.
Yeah, it happens, and I'll admit it would be muddier. I feel a discount. A lot of people like to say Mac Jones is just playing behind a best offensive line in the country, and he's the best receiver core in the country. But still, this is also a guy you have to keep in mind. Most people were coming into this season saying, he'll be replaced by Bryce Young.
Sure.
He's the third string quarterback.
But that should have nothing to do with his Heisman candidacy.
Right. Well, it's along the same lines as this kind of, come out of nowhere story, like you were kind of saying with Kyle Trask. The fact that Kyle Trask is succeeding on a very talented, very good forward team shouldn't have any more bearing than Matt Jones succeeding on.
No. I'm making the difference in my claim is, yes, I'm not saying we should be rooting for an underdog and therefore have a skewed vote because Kyle Trask it's a feel-good story, or Mac Jones would be a feel-good story because they're not the poster boys for the Heisman that we expected, as opposed to Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence, who are going to be number 1 NFL draft picks. What I'm saying is that Kyle Trask, it's most people's observation that he plays for a little bit lesser team than Alabama, and they have not been nearly as successful, and that his contribution lifted them over Georgia to win the East and possibly to an SEC championship, but that they haven't won since 2008.
Okay.
Regardless of what,
I think I can boil.
Even if he was Justin Fields, if that was Justin Fields at Florida and he was doing the same thing, even though everybody looked at him as, this is the second coming and he's the greatest and he's the best player in the country, but he was still doing that with Florida, I would give him the credit for elevating the program and the team. So it's not about Trask not starting in high school and all that business, to me. I don't think that should have anything to do with it.
Okay. So, I mean, I think I can boil down your entire point into one sentence. You're looking for the guy who's most important to his respective team.
Well, it's not supposed to be that, but I guess I am. Yeah. I guess he's the MVP for me. Because otherwise, do we really want to? There is no way that the best player in the country is always a quarterback. The most important position on the football field is quarterback. And that's been emphasized and exaggerated with the style of offense over the last 10 to 15 years. So that's why quarterbacks are always winning the Heisman now. But are they the best players in the country? No, the best player in the country might be somebody's left tackle. But we don't vote for those people.
Player in the country, but so I'll get back to it. The quarterback is the most important position on the team, and so if he's that good, then usually that would translate to he's the most important player to that team. So you combine that with being amazing all year, and then that's your Heisman winner. Amazing. Usually a quarterback, occasionally a running back, who was basically the difference maker in the team. Who, without that guy, this team does not win what they did that year.
Yeah, I think it's a flawed award. I think it's the most prestigious award in sports, but it's severely flawed. It's a quarterback running back award. Why don't I don't know, they should officially say that, actually. I always like to stick up. I always like to.
In the past, defensive players have won it, and wide receivers have won it in the past.
I like to stick up for defensive players. I like to stick up for offensive linemen, just because. Let's face it, they have no chance of winning this thing. It's been 23 years since it's happened.
Well, you can understand why I avoid saying the H word.
You're always saying the what?
It's such a flawed, cliche system. The H word, I call it.
Yeah. We've got Greg Ferguson saying that Ndamukong Suh was the best player I've ever seen and not to win the Heisman Trophy in college.
You might have something to say about that. There was a certain Ohio State player last year everyone was talking about.
Sure. Got Chase Young. You got Orlando Pace. He was dominant enough to be a top 3 Heisman vote getter at offensive tackle. And he was the #1 player in the NFL draft, which I don't think should have anything to do with it, but that just confirmed how good he was. We're actually getting a comment that offenses can maintain without a solid offensive line. Come on, young Kiz Midwest. We've taught you better than that.
Well, hold on. Go back to literally the same comment you said before that.
Okay, about the
QBs can only do with the protection they get. So he contradicted himself 5 seconds later.
Yes.
But I think you're right, actually. The offensive line is the most important group of players.
I believe so.
Occasionally you do get guys that can somewhat rise above a bad offensive line if they're really slippery and they're really fast or just really big, like Jessica Cam Newton or something.
Like I would equate it this way. If somebody was going to argue with me, and these numbers are just I'm just making them up. But if you said the quarterback is worth 10 points, I'm not saying 10 points on a scoreboard. I'm saying just like 10 points in some type of system. And let's say each offensive lineman's worth 3. You're still saying that the quarterback's worth 10 and each individual offensive lineman's only worth 3. But as a collective unit, they're worth 15 and the quarterback's worth 10. Something like that. That's all I'm saying when I say that. And that's just my opinion.
Oh, now I remember one more thing.
Yep.
Okay. So when we're talking, we always talk about, Ohio State, Michigan, what has it been, 16 years or something now. And you always make the comment or something on the lines of, if you throw out the Luke Fickell year.
Yep.
It's always some sort of verbatim like that.
Uh-huh.
Why does it have to be, why do you have to say it like that? Michigan still won the game fair and square.
Sure they did.
They didn't cheat anything, right?
Oh, no. They did. I think, though,
why do we have to throw out that year there?
I think, though, if Bear Bryant and Nick Saban coached back-to-back at Alabama with 1 year in between, in which Bear Bryant's assistant took over the team as an interim coach, and they lost to Auburn, that you would make that consideration. You would say something about, okay, well, yeah, we did lose that 1 year, but yeah, Joe Blow was the coach of the team, and we went 6-6, and that was between the Bear and Saban. There would be some kind of, yeah, the game counts just like the other games. Yeah, Michigan beat Ohio State in 2011. Absolutely, they did. Okay. No, you're 100% right. Every single Bama fan out there would make that. I only say that now because it looks like Luke Fickell was actually pretty good. Well, sure, yeah, but he was. Which
brings me to my final comment that I don't think South Carolina is going to get Hugh Freeze. I think they're going to instead get Luke Fickell. My reason for that has nothing to do with me thinking Freeze is better or worse. It has everything to do with the fact that Freeze has publicly stated Tennessee is his dream job. And have you taken a look at what's going on in Tennessee?
Yeah.
So I think it would be it would be hard to display a PR image if you got hired at South Carolina and then jumped right across the street to a school in the same division. So I think he may just hang out at Liberty a little bit longer and just wait it out.
Oh, that's a fair point.
I have absolutely no evidence for that, but that's what I think will happen. They could honestly announce hiring him tomorrow, and I wouldn't be surprised.
I would make it a point. I would make it a point if I was a head coach in college football or anywhere. I would not be stating to the public or the media what my dream job is. That would never come out of my mouth until I actually got it. And then it may not even come out of my mouth.
Well, he doesn't share your philosophy. Neither did Urban Meyer, by the way. He was very open about wanting to coach Notre Dame.
I think, I don't know that he ever, I always heard it out of his mouth that Ohio State was his dream job. I don't know if that was after he got the Ohio State job.
Some of the things he said when he was at Florida or around leaving Florida, he used to say that.
Yeah.
Like Notre Dame was like one of the golden, I think he used the word golden something.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's not important. I just remember that. Anyway, enough taking up your time.
All right, Reasonable Gump. I always appreciate it. Have a good one. It's good to see Terry Ann in our little chat tonight. We haven't seen you, Terry Ann, for quite some time. So Terry Ann's making the point that linemen have their own award. Quarterbacks have their own award as well. So each position has its own award. The quarterback award is the Davey O'Brien Award. And I don't even keep up with these awards, really. So I might get a little confused on these. We've got the Maxwell Award. That's also like a best player award. But we've got the Davey O'Brien, for the quarterback, and we got the Doak Walker for the running back, and the Bolitnikoff for wide receivers, the Mackey for the tight ends. We've got the oh man, I'm losing it on the offensive line. It was right there, and then it went. Anyway, I'll come back to it. We've got the Lombardi Award, the Nagurski Award, the Bednarik. So we've got a defensive line. We've got a Budkiss Award for linebackers. Why am I blanking out on the offensive line award? Somebody help me out. I just had it on the tip of my tongue. And then, of course, we've got the Jim Thorpe Award for the, oh my goodness, the Remington. Thank you, Nebraska, Dave Remington. Yes, the Lombardi, the Bednarik, the Budkiss, the Thorpe. Every position has an award, even the quarterbacks. But the Heisman Trophy is supposed to go to the best player, whatever that means. It's almost like the College Football Playoff Selection Committee telling us, we select the 4 best teams. I always thought that was the stupidest comment ever. Now, it should be the Ray Guy Award. Thank you. And then we've got the place kicker. Is that the Groza? That's the Lou Groza. Yes, Ray Guy, of course, the Oakland Raiders, and Lou Groza of the Cleveland Browns, Ohio State Buckeyes. Mark should have his college football radio show on ESPN or Sirius. Thank you. He is much better than some so-called radio hosts. Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that so much. I was on ESPN radio in Los Angeles Friday night. I don't know if you saw that on my page. I don't know how they found me on Twitter, but somebody found me on Twitter, and it was so nice to be on Scott Kaplan's program on ESPN radio last Friday night in LA. So hopefully that will pick up some views and some subs, and we can get the word out there because they said they liked it and they would like for me to be on a regular basis.
The call will start at the beep.
Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Anthony.
Hey, Anthony. What's going on?
Hey, Bob. How you doing?
I'm good.
I wanted to call in. I want to talk about the Michigan situation. I always watch you on Steve Diggs' program, and 10 Minute War. I kind of really like the segment you guys do. It's kind of homage to the what before my time, but definitely the great Ohio State and Michigan teams part.
Yeah, it's fun.
Let's take a little umbrage with you first, Mark, real quick. Calling out Trask over Justin Fields. You're going to have to revoke your Buckeye card. I mean, I think a guy that has more touchdown passes and incompletions has got to be, the front runner for the Heisman, don't you think?
Not in beating, and this is not Justin Fields' issue. This is not his fault, but not in beating Penn State, Nebraska, and Rutgers. He's just in the situation.
I know that. Obviously,
what has he done?
Get better competition, but I mean, have you watched what Justin Fields is doing out there? I mean, he's like, I didn't play college, I played high school, but he's doing next level stuff, Mark. I'm telling you, he's like a maestro out there. I mean, he's seeing the field. I mean, he's mastering concepts. I mean, he's doing little subtle things that just even Trevor Lawrence, I don't think does. I mean, and plus the physical talent, the tools. The running, I mean, he hasn't even pulled out the run. He run one time this year, really, on one design run. And, I mean, he walked in the end zone. I mean, I just think, he pulls that running thing out. He's got 50 touchdowns and, by the end of the year, both combined running and passing. I mean, he's just amazing. And, I mean, he's seeing the field, too. I mean, it's like the guy's like a maestro out there.
Well,
I just don't think Trask is that good.
I did make the comment that Justin Fields is a better quarterback and a better player and a better prospect in the pros than Kyle Trask. But again, I'm not voting for Justin. If the season ended today and they said, okay, no more games, we're done, I would not vote for Justin Fields for the Heisman Trophy based on his artistry against Nebraska Rutgers and Penn State. I'm just not doing it. He's not won significant games yet. That might change. He can play himself back into it. He's been remarkable. Yes, he's completing 88% of his passes. Of course I'm watching. I've probably seen 90% of his throws this year. I sat here after his 20 for 21 in game one and went on and on about how I can't remember seeing a game in which somebody threw every pass on the money.
Yeah. I mean, Graham Mertz got all that attention for one good game, and then he had a 60% completion on his next outing. Of course, he did have COVID and all, but yeah, Justin Fields just seems to get better and better. And I agree. I mean, obviously the SEC track is better competition, but I just think, I don't know, Justin Fields just seems to be like next level. But the reason why I wanted to call, I wanted to get your take on the Michigan job. I know you talked to Steve Gates a lot, and one of the guys over Michigan podcast, and maybe you're clued in, but a lot of people are afraid that Luke Fickell is going to take that job. And the funny thing is, I know it's tied to Ohio State. Actually, I was at Ohio State the same time he was. Let's say same years, we overlapped a little bit.
Okay.
Like his last year there was my second year there, but he was just always had this reputation as an awesome guy, and the thing that kind of worries me is, I mean, there's a lot of people think that he takes that job at Michigan 3 years, he thinks Ryan Day if Ryan Day is still there, because I mean, and what they're saying is, and I don't know how much you know, but his coaches that he's got have a much better relationship with which all important, like Ohio high school football coaches like Glenville and Cincinnati St. Xavier and Akron Hoban, Youngstown Ursuline. He's got all these, and basically he's losing out because the brand. I mean, when you have Cincinnati on your shirt versus Ohio State on your shirt, but if he walks in with Michigan on his shirt, that's a whole different level. I mean, I hate to say that I can't stand Michigan. I mean, I good to hate them. My father's probably turned over a great mean thing with Michigan, but I really worry. I don't know if you can worry, but I just think that would be a great hire for Michigan, because and the fact is that he comes cheap, he's a young guy, and I mean, I think he has a really established relationship with that Ohio talent that Jim Harbaugh has been swinging and mixing on, and Urban Meyer pretty much alienated a lot of those coaches. They weren't big Urban Meyer fans. And I think Luke Fickell kind of stepped in that void a little bit. Now, Ohio State hasn't needed them because they get Florida, they get Texas, they get the pipeline to California. So I guess we'll get your take about Luke Fickell, and if you heard anything about him thinking that he may take that Michigan job, and and how successful he would be.
Well, I made the comment a few minutes ago to another caller that anytime I'm asked about coaching decisions, and if a particular person would leave one university for another, it's all speculation. Unless he's given us reason to believe that he would or would not take a particular job, we're all just speculating what's important to that person. So we know that this is what's important to most football coaches: going to the best job possible and making as much money as possible, because they're all alpha dogs who want to win, who want to be the best, who want to show they're the best, who want to work and be hired and run the best program possible. And they also want to make money. That's why the rest of us work. We want to make money. And then there are other things involved, location and parts of the country where they want to raise their families or they're comfortable, that sort of thing ties into it. But we know those two things, that if you've reached that level of competition, that you care about where you're coaching and you want to be recognized as being the best and having a shot to win championships and having the facilities that are going to bring the players and all that sort of thing. And then number two, just, as long as, I think somebody like a Luke Fickell would turn down $6 million to go somewhere that he would rather be for $5.5 million. But if that disparity's $6 million and $2 million, then, you know, that's going to push any of us to a certain extent. And I just looked it up. He's making $3.5 million, 3.4 at Cincinnati. I looked that up the other day. So this is what I think. I'm guessing, this is just a guess, that as anybody who bleeds scarlet and gray, I got to think that Luke Fickell wants to coach at Ohio State. He wants to be the head coach at Ohio State more than anything. I also believe that it would be difficult for him to make a decision to go to Michigan for that reason. So he's probably,
that's a good point.
He's probably predicting, he's probably trying to make some kind of estimation in his mind. Now, if Ryan Day wasn't, you know, if this was, if Urban Meyer hadn't stepped down and this was year 9 with Urban Meyer instead of year 2 with Ryan Day, then Luke Fickell might be thinking differently and thinking, you know, I got a good thing going here in Cincinnati. They're paying me $3.5 million. I can still, you know, win at a pretty high level, and I can, you know, Urban's not going to be around forever. He's probably going to step down in the next few years. So I just keep this thing rolling at Cincinnati and I can step right into that Ohio State job. But now, who knows how long Ryan Day could be at Ohio State for 15 years. And let's I know a lot of Ohio State fans would be very upset if Luke Fickell went to Michigan, but and I understand that, but you got to think about it's the man's profession. And so I don't know how much that weighs on him in terms of that rivalry versus him just making it. If you're just blindly making a career move and that's all it's about, career move, then you leave Cincinnati to go to Michigan. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah. I think he still wants, I agree. I mean, that's a good point because, you know, if you think that, you know, I mean, obviously, I know you're college football, but I know you probably watch the pros too. And, you know, the thing in the pros is that they want the hot, young, you know, they want the, you know, hot, young, offensive brilliant mind as your head coach. You know, I mean, it started with like, you know, everybody wants, you know, that's kind of like the sheep tip. They want the, you know, the guy that's the, you know, the offensive, you know, genius. And obviously Ryan Day and Lincoln Riley, you know, those guys fit that, you know, fresh faced mold. So, you know, Ryan Day definitely, and I don't know if he'll coach. I mean, hopefully I wish he would because, I mean, he seems to be a great coach, but I think just, you know, that's the guy that, you know, he obviously cut his teeth in the NFL. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I think someday he's going to want to go back. But yeah, I just want to get your take on that because, like I said, I've always, you know, the one guy that really, and I know they throw a couple names, like the Oklahoma State guy, the name escapes me right now, and they throw a couple names for Michigan. I truly think they're going to give, you know, they're going to find some excuse to let Harbaugh go at the end of the year because the guy just looks lost and disinterested. But it just, like I said, it always worries me a little bit about Luke Fickell because, you know, Michigan has always been able to beat Ohio State on, you know, when they have been is when they can steal a good talent. And I just know that Luke Fickell, you know, playing, you know, and it's cultivated to make really good relationships with, which is all important. As you know, with the high school coaches, that's like, it's as important as recruiting a player. And him and his staff have done a really good job because I know a few people that are associated with the Ohio Coaches, High School Coaches Association, and, you know, Luke Fickell, you know, thought of like goals with them. So I just always kind of worried me if he went to Michigan because, like I said, you sit down in Cincinnati on your shores one day, but you sit down in Michigan on your shore, that's a whole different thing. And it's just like, you know, but yeah, I think deep down though, I mean, he hated Michigan, so, you know, he probably could, you know, he could talk. So it would be, you know, good career choice, but you know, I think it's hard. It would be hard to go. So
yep, because
obviously, you know, it's like he didn't, I mean, I would still think, you know, he's a great guy and all to the job, but well, that's all I had, Mark. Thanks for your feedback on that.
And I'll make one other observation about that just came to mind. I I think the shoe would be on the other foot. I think that Michigan fans would be all in on Luke Fickell, and they could care less. Most of them. Obviously, there's going to be a portion of them that would care that he's a Buckeye, but most of them just want to win. So let's get the best coach possible. But the shoe would be on the other foot if Michigan was coming off a huge run against Ohio State, had whipped them 15 years in a row. We're in a better position. We're coming off a coach, let's say, that retired, like Urban Meyer, who was winning constantly. And they were like, well, we don't need to hire some Ohio State guy. We can go get somebody else. And they would take exception to it, I think, if the situation was flipped. Just like Ohio State fans might take exception to it now. So,
could you imagine trying to get Jim Harbaugh?
What's that?
Could you imagine Ohio State trying to hire away Jim Harbaugh?
Oh my word! Yeah.
If the Harbaugh stayed in the NFL and Brady Hook was actually a good coach.
Sure. Yeah.
The guy that guaranteed a victory in '85 against us.
Yep. Yep.
I think I'd probably be a little bit against that. Like,
Yep. Exactly.
I was still in middle school, but I'll never forget that.
I remember well. All right, man. I appreciate the call, sir. Have a good one.
Yeah, thanks. Have a good night, Mark.
Thank you.
Love what you're doing, man. Keep doing it.
Thank you so much. Love the encouragement. Thank you for that. Okay. Some people said I allow people to stay on the line too long. So I'm going to look at some comments because Jeff asked me to. Let's look at some comments. AW wants Tony Elliott at South Carolina. He would be an awesome hire. The Clemson offensive coordinator. Reasonable Gump. If the hope is that Day goes to the NFL, then the best choice for Fickell would be South Carolina, no doubt. I can't imagine Hugh Freeze is going to Michigan. That just does not seem like a fit. Yeah, Michigan is too, depending on your perspective, either uppity or high-minded to go after somebody with that track record. No, Michigan's not going after Hugh Freeze. Harbaugh not beating Ohio State, at least not as a coach. He did as a player. Twice, 2-0 against the Buckeyes. Okay, I think I'm caught up. All right, I'm going to be here all day tomorrow. A lot of the time recording. Texas A&M, Miami. I forget who else. But 2 o'clock Eastern Time, Ohio State Buckeyes Live. Buckeye fans, college football fans, right here, 2 o'clock. And then at 6, Florida State. And then at 8, SEC. We would get sponsors. Maybe that's why somebody said that I was talking too corporately. That's the only thing I could have possibly said that I thought was maybe taken that way. I got to make money. Got to make money. This is the biz right now. This is what we do full-time all the time. So need some sponsors for the shows. I appreciate everybody jumping online here with us. Please, we've got 80 on the line. We'll have a few thousand that watch this video. Go to the community page and make your vote of when you would watch a live call-in show every night, because I want to pick the best time to get the best viewership, accommodate as many of you as possible. Not that we won't do live streams at other times, but I may commit myself to a live show every night at 7 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 11 o'clock, whenever, and take that into the off season. All right, everyone. Appreciate it. We will see you soon, meaning 2 o'clock Eastern, Ohio State Live, right here on Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Thank you, Joseph. Appreciate it. Thank you, Jeff. And everyone else.